Whatever makes you happy, what gets you out of bed, whatever kicks the cobwebs so you'll join in instead.
Good sport!
A victorious daydream.
Good sport!
Don't sweat glory or fame.
Good sport!
Ain't we all on the same team?
Good sport!
It's the name of the game.
Hello there, everyone. Welcome inside the Dufferin Ave Media Network mothership. My name is Ryan Flaherty, and I am over the moon excited to be joining this family here with this great new show. At least I hope it's a great new show. I hope you think it's a great new show. This is Good Sports. Welcome to episode 1 of Good Sports. Our mission here is to widen the lens of the Saskatoon and area sports scene beyond some of the things that maybe are on the top headlines. There is so much diversity to the sports landscape here in Saskatchewan, and specifically here in Saskatoon. And of course, with the way that legacy media has gone, we don't necessarily hear about all of it all the time. There just aren't a lot of resources in the traditional media anymore that are dedicated to covering local sports. So here at Good Sports, our job is to help shed a light, shine a light even, on a lot of those things that maybe don't get enough attention and sure deserve a lot more attention. Today, on our very first episode, we're going to have a great conversation with two members of the first ever Canadian women's futsal team. They just came back from the CONCACAF Championship as CONCACAF champions, and they are headed to the World Cup later this year, the very first ever Women's Futsal World Cup. What is futsal? Well, stick around and you'll find out. We'll hear of Jerson Barandica Hamilton, who is the current head coach of the Saskatchewan Huskies women's soccer team, who is an assistant coach for Team Canada, and Jade Houmphanh, who is one of 3 former Husky players who were part of Team Canada that just came back about 3 weeks ago from Guatemala as CONCACAF champions. So very excited to have them here in the studio to talk all about that experience and what it means for women's futsal in Canada. A lot of Sask content. We love that here on the show, and especially when they're from right here in Saskatoon. So very excited to have them in here. But first, we're going to do this out off the top of every show each week. Just a little rundown of what's been going on over the last week and what is to come maybe in the next week here locally on the sports calendar. So without further ado, let's get right into it. This is What's Going On. And we start off with the Saskatchewan Rush. Of course, they are currently in the midst of the National Lacrosse League final. And boy, what a game on Sunday at SaskTel Center, right down to the very end, as the Rush, who needed a win to stay alive in the championship series, pulled out an 11-10 victory over the Buffalo Bandits. Buffalo had won Game 1 2 nights prior on their home floor, and it's a best-of-3 series, so the Rush were in must-win territory, and they got the job done to force the decisive Game 3, and that is coming up on Saturday in Buffalo, back in Buffalo, in front of, I'm sure, what will be a sold-out crowd. Buffalo Bandits are trying to complete a three-peat, and if I'm not mistaken, I think they would be the second team in National Lacrosse League history to do that. Let me know in the comments if I'm wrong on that one, but I believe memory serves that would be the second time a team has done that. Of course, the Rush are looking to stop that. It's been a quite an impressive rebuild by the Rush over the last couple of years. They finished second in the regular season standings. They've been very impressive in the playoffs, and now they are one win away from their first NLL championship since 2018, and their third one since relocating here to Saskatoon back in 2016. So that, again, it's a 4:30 Eastern time start for Game 3 on Saturday, May 24th. That's 2:30 local time. That'll be on television, so you can tune in and check that one out. So that's item number 1. Let's carry on with a little more lacrosse. At the junior level, the Saskatchewan SWAT lacrosse program here based in Saskatoon has 3 junior level teams, a junior A squad and 2 junior B teams, one of which plays in the Rocky Mountain Lacrosse League. The other one plays in the Prairie Gold Lacrosse League. The Junior A squad also plays in the RMLL. Those Junior A's actually opened their season this past weekend at home at Kinsman Arena. Couple of losses for the SWAT, 12-5 and 9-6 against the Calgary Mountaineers. But you can see the progress from game 1 to game 2 as they are trying to get back into the win column. It's been some lean years for the SWAT program. In fact, they haven't won a game in the run of play, at least, since 2022. They did get a couple of wins by forfeit a couple of years ago, but it's been 3 seasons since they actually won a game on the floor. And this year's team, I think, has potential to finally end that drought. And who knows what they might do the rest of the way in the season. So those are the Junior A's. Their next game is on the road against those very same Calgary Mountaineers. That will be tonight, in fact, or pardon me, on Saturday, May 24th, in Calgary at Stu Peppard Arena. The Junior B Tier 1 SWAT, who are the ones that also play in the Rocky Mountain League, they opened their season a couple weeks ago with a split out in Winnipeg against the Manitoba Blizzard, or Blizz, if you will. 2 one-goal games, each team winning one of those. The B1s will have their home opener tonight. That is tonight. This Thursday. It is tonight, right? We're on Thursday, right? Yeah, I think I know what day of the week it is. That is going to be at 7 o'clock at Gordie Howe Kinsman Arena against the Queen City Kings, their provincial rivals. And then they'll have 3 more games at home this weekend against the Calgary Shamrocks. 2 on Saturday at 1 o'clock and 8 o'clock. And the third game on Sunday also at 1 o'clock. And again, you can head down to Gordie Howe Kinsman Arena and check out all of those games Thursday night, Saturday at 1 and 8, and Sunday at 1 to cheer on the Junior B Tier 1 SWAT, who are off to a 1-1 start this season. The record says 2-1. I think there is a team that may have folded. So I think they may have already been awarded a victory later in the year for a team that no longer exists, but we'll sort that out as we go. Let's shift our focus to basketball. Saskatchewan Rattlers tipped off their season last week, exactly a week ago, in fact, last Thursday, and it was not pretty. It's not really much lipstick you can put on the pig. They lost by 40 points, 105-65 against the Vancouver Bandits early in the season, though. And I would caution anyone who's trying to take too much, read too much into that one game. Teams still building chemistry, a lot of new players getting to know each other. And they now have had a full week to prepare for Game 2. That is tonight at home against the Edmonton Stingers, a 7:30 tip-off. Edmonton off to an 0-2 start. So a couple of teams looking for their first win should make for some exciting basketball. Always a great time. If you have not been to a Rattlers game yet, you are certainly missing out. It is high-level professional basketball, great athletes, real excitement. And the target score ending brings the intrigue always because, of course, the game's not over until the one team hits a certain number, so that makes it a lot more fun. The Rattlers will also be in action on Saturday night at home as they will host the Niagara River Lions. Niagara 2-0 as we record this episode. They are playing as well tonight against Vancouver, so they could either be 3-0 or 2-1 when they arrive here in Saskatoon for their game on Saturday. That is also a 7:30 tip-off. Let's talk some football. Women's Western Canadian Football League, the Saskatoon Valkyries. They are the juggernauts of that league. I have lost track of how many championships they have won. Looking to win another one this season. It is a short season, 4 games in the regular season for the Valks. They've already played 1. That was a victory over their provincial rivals, the Regina Riot, 17-7, the score in that game. They're off to Manitoba to play the Manitoba Fearless on Sunday this weekend. And then their next home game is on June the 8th. That is also their alumni game, so that should be a lot of fun at Gordie Howe Sports Complex. And I think we're going to have someone from the Valkyries on, if not next week, perhaps the week after on the show. So stick around, stay tuned for that. Saskatchewan Marathon taking place this weekend on Sunday. So if you're in the exhibition area, there might be some traffic stuff going on. A lot of the raceway, the race course is, of course, through the Meewasin Valley. But it's not just a marathon, 42.2K. There's a half marathon, 21.1. I can do that math. But also 10K, 5K, and even a 2.2K circuit through Diefenbaker Park, which is, of course, where the start and finish line are. If you're not registered, if you're not running the race, of course, you can go anywhere along the course and cheer on the runners. I think my sister's running in it, so I'm going to have to get up at the crack of dawn to line up somewhere to cheer her on. But and if you're interested in health, wellness, and what some of the various active lifestyle brands are doing, there's actually a race expo happening at Prairieland Park on Saturday. I believe that kicks off at 10 a.m. Start time for the Saskatchewan Marathon and all those other races is 7 a.m. bright and early on Sunday. So for all the runners or running enthusiasts or maybe just running spectators. That's you got your Sunday morning planned. And of course, if you're in the exhibition area, be aware there's going to be some traffic diversions and things like that, as there are some of the city streets that are going to be used for the course as well. So just be aware of that and, give those runners the space they need. Let's switch over to track and field. 4 members of the Saskatchewan Huskies track and field team have been named to the Canadian FISU Summer Games team. And FISU Games are the university games. Just like the Olympics, they have winter and summer versions every 2 years, I believe. And university athletes from across the country are selected to compete for Canada. And so Hannah Haggerty and will be going to compete in long jump. Paige Willems in the 400 meters. Those are both fourth-year Huskies. And they just recently graduated Jake Neufeld, who just completed his final year of eligibility. He'll be going in the decathlon. And their head coach, the Huskies track and field head coach, Jason Reindl, is also part of the Canadian contingent. He'll be in charge of the sprints and hurdles athletes at those games, which will take place in Rhein-Ruhr, Germany, opening July 16th. The track and field competition begins on July 21st. So good luck to our Huskies. And of course, here on Good Sports, it is our mission to keep you apprised of how they're doing. So once those games are going on, we'll have updates here for you on the show. And staying on the track closer to home, high school track and field championships are going on next week, May 28th and 29th, over at the Gordie House Sports Complex. I have some fond memories of running some sprints back in the day, back when my ankles and knees still worked properly. So, great time for those high school athletes. It's always a fun atmosphere. Stands packed with parents and friends and teammates cheering them on. Hopefully some good weather for that out at the track, May 28th and 29th. And of course, the athletes who are successful there will go on to compete at the provincial level, and we will keep our eyes on that as well. And finally, a couple more things before just to wrap up the what's going on here portion, because it's a busy time of year. Some people think that this time of year is quiet in sports here. Not so much here in Saskatoon. Both of our local racetracks are kicking off their seasons this weekend. Sutherland Automotive Speedway has its season opener Saturday, May 24th at 5 p.m. They're going to do, that's the stock cars. You're going to get the Pro Late models, the Super Stocks, and a fan favorite, the Super Trucks. So very reasonable ticket prices. Always a fun time. I'll be perfectly honest. I wasn't a big auto racing guy. I still wouldn't consider myself very knowledgeable in that area, but it's a fun time. Go to the track. Watch the cars go around and around. It's loud. It's colorful. There's a real good concession as well. The racing community here in Saskatoon is second to none. So Sutherland Automotive Speedway, that's Saturday at 5. And then out, or if you're more of a drag racing fan, well, we got you covered there. Saskatchewan International Raceway opening its season this weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, just south of the city. Friday is the Performance Plus at Street Legals. Gates at 5:30, racing till about 9. Saturday will be the testing and tuning for the big race on Sunday. The gates for that open at 7 a.m., testing running from 10 to 5. And then the feature event on Sunday, the World Drag Racing Alliance points race number 1. Gates for that at 7 a.m. Qualifying starts at 9 a.m. and eliminations begin roughly 1 p.m. And of course, that's weather permitting. Hopefully everything stays dry, because water and drag racing do not mix. So you want good weather for that first weekend out at SIR. Again, May 23rd, 24th, and 25th. And finally, this is a late breaker just before recording, but want to congratulate Paige Crozon, Humboldt's own Paige Crozon, and the rest of the Canadian women's 3x3 basketball team, as they come away with a silver medal from the first FIBA 3x3 Women's Series event of the season in Amsterdam. They lost in the final to the host Netherlands team, but still a very solid performance for the women who have won a World Series title in the past. Paige Crozon finished the tournament as the third leading scorer in the tournament. Her teammate Catherine Plouffe was the top scorer in the event. The next stop for them will be in Vienna, Austria, in the middle of June. So what's going on? A lot is going on. That's what's going on here for our first episode. All right, time now for our feature interview here on episode 1. And this is really the meat and potatoes of the show. This is why we want to do Good Sports here, a chance to really have these expanded conversations about some great stuff, some great people that are doing incredible things, not just here in Saskatoon and local sports, but also in the wider world. And very much so, that is the case for our first two guests here. I called you a little bit of guinea pigs because you are the first to be on the show, but Jerson Barandica Hamilton and Jade Houmphanh, of course, known to folks here as members of the Saskatchewan Huskies women's soccer program. Jerson's the head coach. Jade just, I believe, finished your 5th year with the team as well. And, well, let's bring them in here because they are now CONCACAF women's futsal champions. First ever. It was the first ever event in Guatemala just about 3 weeks ago now, I guess, since you got back. Let's start there because obviously, let's start with you, Jerson. This is a first. This was an inaugural event. This is the first time, obviously, for Canada to have a women's futsal team at an international event, and you go there and you win the thing. Just like, has it set in you?
No, Ryan. Just listening to you say it, it still brings a big smile to my face, and honestly, it's undescribable. Like I've told many people going in, we were just hoping to be a team that played with pride, that made competitive games and that didn't get blown out, but to then come out as champions, I think the 2 weeks that we had there is going to be something I'll never forget. It's such an amazing memory that we'll have, not just because of what we were able to accomplish, but just the group of people that were there, how everything just fell into place, and how we got better and better and better. And we won the qualifiers, first ever, historical, but we also won the top goal scorer, the top goalie, the top player of the tournament, Fair Play Award. Yeah. And I don't think a single person would have ever given us that opportunity to do it or have it on their bingo card that we were going to do that. So I think that just makes it that much more special. And I don't think it will ever sink in until we're on a plane off to the Philippines headed to the World Cup.
That's right. Because, of course, by winning this event, you get to go to the very first Women's Futsal World Cup later this year. And we should, before we go too far, mention these aren't the only two people with Husky connections that were on this team. Two other former Husky players, Jaden Steinauer and Erica Heinmarsh, both also on the team, both also, just like Jade, contributors to the cause. So, Jade, I guess for you, obviously, what does it feel like to have gone through this experience, but also to share it with those other Huskies?
Same thing that Jerson said. I don't think it's quite set in fully. The fact that we had won the whole thing, come back, and just return to daily life just didn't feel real. And I feel like until we actually get to the Philippines, it will start feeling more and more real. But to share with Erica and Jaden, like players that I played leading up in my Husky career and women's team, it was a lot of fun. It was someone I could always count on and relate to, and I could always talk to those two. And just seeing both of them succeed as well was super exciting for me.
You scored, I think we scored a goal during the tournament and then also in the PKs in the semifinal against Mexico, which we'll get to in a moment here. I do want to, let's just kind of run down how the tournament went. I'm going to see if I can do this off the top of my dome here before I look at my phone here. So you're in a Group B. There's 8 teams in the tournament. You start off with a close loss against Costa Rica. I think they were one of the 3 teams that actually had a ranking coming in as well, correct? And so that was a tight one. And then you beat Honduras 6-0, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And then you play the U.S. And I think this is an interesting one because you were telling me about the disparity in your team budgets, these sorts of things. You beat USA 3-1, and that puts you into the semifinals. So I want to just pause there for a second. And at what point during that group stage, and either one of you can answer this, did you start to feel like, oh, okay, this is maybe more of a happy to be here like opportunity. This is something we can maybe win. Was there a point then, or was it not until later on in the semifinal maybe?
Yeah, I'll give the coach perspective, and maybe Jade, you can give the player's perspective because it might be different. Honestly, right, it was interesting. Like we just to maybe set the scene in a little bit of context. This national team was just formed in February, or I guess the final selection was happened in March. So Alex De Rocha, who is the head coach, and he's based out of Quebec, and he's the head coach of University of Quebec at Montreal. He got the position as a head coach, I believe, towards the end of January. And so we've kind of known each other, and we've been friends. And he reached out as he was building his staff and asked me if I would be part of the coaching staff as an assistant coach. I think part of it, I don't know for certain, but I think it had to do with a lot of what we've achieved with futsal on the club level. With the green and white winning nationals last year and Jade being the MVP. And obviously this year nationals hadn't been played, but then now we know that SK Impact won it. So 2 or 3 years we've had Saskatchewan clubs win national championships, which is prehistorical. And in the first one, SK Impact medaled and they won bronze. So I think from an outside perspective, Alex and the rest of the people have seen what we're doing kind of on a local level when it comes to women's futsal. So he called and I immediately agreed. Obviously, I needed permission from Shannon Chin, the Husky Athletics chief officer, and she was amazing in terms of giving me this opportunity. And so I was part of the staff. And so from that point on, we had to kind of really build the team from nothing. This is the first ever national team to be selected. So Quebec has had futsal for quite a bit of time, and so they were kind of the core of the national team, but they had I guess a tryout for the East Coast provinces, Ontario and Quebec. In Quebec, part of my roles and my job as a assistant coach on the western side was to identify players all the way from BC to Manitoba. Now BC doesn't really have much of a league, but obviously there's some successful soccer programs. Sure. Alberta, they do have ACAC plays futsal. They have a competitive futsal season and championships, which I'm jealous at the youth sports level that we don't have. Yeah. So I scouted most of the Alberta college provincials and playdowns. Then in Saskatchewan, we had kind of a showcase game with myself and Matthew Hinachu, who's the director of Saskatchewan soccer when it comes to high performance. We created a pool of players, and then Manitoba also had a showcase game. And so from that point, we kind of selected a group of, I believe it was 32, Jade, maybe, players to get invited for that final selection camp, which happened in Montreal, I think towards the end of March. And out of those 32 players, we narrowed it down to the 14 that got to go to CONCACAF. So really had just that selection team, and then maybe before we head to Guatemala, we had a 2-day camp in Montreal, and then we went to Guatemala about 4 or 5 days earlier. So in all, I think we ended up having about 7 or 8 sessions before our first game against Costa Rica. We did manage to play a club team in Guatemala, the club champions, and it was a really good test for us because there was a club championship in Central America in January, and they're the champions of that club championship. So we played them, and we were able to beat them 5-0. Now, they didn't also have their national Guatemalan team players there, right, but they were a good team. So that started to kind of like, as a coaching staff, give us a little bit of a parameter to be like, okay, like, we're not terrible. Because at that point, up to that point, we had only played against U15, U16 boys in Montreal. Yeah. So really hard to understand the international level. So that gave us slight silent confidence, I would say, to be like, you know what, we could maybe compete. But as you alluded to, our first game was against Costa Rica, who were the number 1 team in CONCACAF. Yeah. And they had been preparing for this event for 2 years. Like, we had weeks, they had 2 years of preparation. They had played against the U.S. U.S. went down to Costa Rica in early March and had played about 3 games and like 10-day preparation of the U.S. So they had already had international exposure, and Costa Rica actually has a professional women's futsal league as well. So we were quite unsure, but we had nothing to lose. So we went into that game, and I remember we were winning 1-0. We had a penalty, we missed it, but we scored in the sequence, and we were playing pretty decent. And then they scored on a corner kick, like on a attacking transition from our corner kick. And so we went into half 1-1. And so for us, that was like a massive victory. Like, we weren't being outplayed. We had chances, and we had missed a lot of chances, but it was 1-1. So I think that started to slowly give us a bit of confidence. But you got to remember, this was the first international game for all of our players ever. We ended up losing that game 3-2, and I think based on just naivety, like they scored a few goals and they started to kind of control the tempo of the game in the second half. But for us, losing 3-2 against Costa Rica was kind of like a moral victory, at least I felt as a coaching staff, because it gave us that like confidence and perspective that we can compete at this level. We just got to obviously clean up some of the mistakes and score some of our chances, because we had so many chances. I think we hit the post 4 times, Jade, and just chances that maybe the nerves got the best out of us. But that slowly started to at least give us some confidence. But you never want to start a tournament losing your first game. It really sets up your second and third game to be like massive.
Almost must wins, right?
Yeah. So our game against Honduras, I think, was the perfect setup in that they're not a bad team, but we had already been able to scout them.
Right.
Going into Costa Rica, we also didn't know what we were up against. So that gave us, as a coaching staff, a little bit of opportunity to prepare our team a little bit better, because we knew what we were going to play against, what we needed to execute. And so we managed to win that game 6-0, which I think was a great confidence booster. First win ever for our national team program. And then it set up our big game against the U.S. But I think that Costa Rica game was the club game, and the Costa Rica game were the start of something special. And then, I don't know, Jade, what do you think?
Yeah, I was going to say, like, from an athlete's perspective, what is the confidence, how much confidence do you gain from sort of hanging in with a team like a Costa Rican team that has, as Jerson said, all this extra time to prepare and time together and all these things? I know from the outside, often we like to talk about this, how, it must have been, that's got to be a confidence builder, but it's easy to say, but does it? Like, does that, do you come out of that game feeling like, I feel my just sort of the sense I have of what we can do here is kind of maybe the trajectory has risen a little bit.
Mm-hmm. I think, I had a thought and then it went away.
Well, let me just ask you this then, for you personally, as the what was that group stage like, sort of navigating and first time experience for you as well? How did you kind of build through those games?
Yeah, I think just with, like Jerson said, like our 7 sessions, we took it as it was. Like, we didn't have a lot of time and we knew that going into it, but we made the best of it. We built like connections and understood like each other's playing styles and all that. And I think the true test was when we played Costa Rica, just knowing that, hey, like they're ranked this high and we just formed this team not very long ago, but we're going to do our best. We're going to play with pride. We're going to play how we know we can play. And I think knowing, like, after the game, a lot of my teammates and I, we felt like we should have won the game. We stuck in the game the whole time. We had chances, like Jerson said, but it was those little mistakes that led to Costa Rica getting away with the win. So I think that helped us see that we can compete with these top-level teams and that these girls, we're just as good as these girls as well.
So obviously you mentioned, the next game is you control that one, you win it handily, and then you get the U.S., and that is the must-win game, right? It's whoever wins this game is advancing out of the group stage into the knockouts, into the semifinals. We like to play up Canada, USA all the time, and no matter what the sport is. But was there like, did that have? I mean, obviously the stakes were as high as they could be at that point in the tournament, but being that it's against the USA, was there a little? I'll start with you though, Jade. Is there a little extra in there in the tank there because you're playing the US?
Oh, of course. I feel like since it's the US, everyone's like the biggest game. People back home were like, we have to watch this game. They hadn't really watched before, but they're like, oh, it's the US. Like, you guys just have to crush them. You have to win. So it definitely added the pressure, but the game was very, I want to say, like even to the certain point, but then like we're both very physical, athletic teams, so it evened out that. But I just think our tactical preparation and our sticking to our game plan as best as we could really helped us out edge the U.S. in the end.
It's like, and I mean, and in the end, because you advance and they don't, like you get to go to the World Cup and they don't as well. Like that is, regardless of what happens in the semis, and you already know. Right, that they're not going to go. We have a chance now to go, and this is something. I mean, I think speaking just personally, that's something kind of cool. Like the fact that they're not going to be part of the first one, and Canada is. That doesn't happen all that often at an international event of that, that size, that magnitude. So, so you get through that U.S. win, and then you're up against Mexico. And Jerson, that is your home country. So were there any extra emotions? What was that like for you? I mean, you're obviously coaching. You're not playing in the game, but what was that, knowing that like you were up against Mexico for a spot not only in the final but in the World Cup?
Yeah, I just want to say something. Like the U.S., I think, was probably one of the most exciting games that we watched as a coaching staff, that we were really proud, because just to, again, context, this is a team that probably has 10 times the budget that we have. Even the staff, they probably had double the staff. They were ranked number 2. So we were in a group with number 1, Costa Rica, number 2 in our group. And no one thought us or Honduras would make it out of our group. So there was really nothing to lose for us. I think that the girls executed the game plan excellently, like perfectly to how we wanted to play. And we scored some timely goals. And let's not forget, Erica Heinmarsh scored the 3-1 goal to solidify that game on an amazing transition. And part of my role was to be the set piece specialist. So I was extremely proud because they had a corner kick. We defended it well. We went on a transition and scored. And like, it was an amazing feeling. One, to make it out of our group, because that already was success for us. But to knock out the U.S. was, you can't put.
That's more than icing on the cake. That's like the whole cake, right? Almost, or at least honestly, a nice healthy piece of cake. Right?
It was amazing. It was amazing. But getting back to the Mexico semifinal, everyone keeps asking me that, and yes, I am Mexican and Canadian. My mom's Canadian, my dad's Mexican. I grew up in Mexico, but I've been in Canada now for 17 years. So it was. And I also know the head coach. Head coach happened to be an assistant coach with Vanessa at the University of Manitoba one season. So it was pretty exciting for me to be able to say that we can compete against Mexico. But to be honest, I was really focused on representing Canada. Yeah. Like at the end of the day, I'm a very professional coach, and I wear this badge with pride because I'm representing the country that I've made my livelihood now in. Now, would I wish that for Mexico to maybe not have to play us and them qualify to World Cup? For sure. But it wasn't the case. So on the day, I was very focused on just doing my role and making history for our program. And so I wouldn't say it was that much of an emotional game, because I just treated it like any other game. We just needed to win, find a way to win, and qualify for the World Cup, and we managed to do that.
And that's really the key to being successful at that kind of level, right? Is you do have to put those emotions aside, whatever they may be, whatever those factors might be playing into it, so that you can focus on the task at hand. That semifinal, I mean, that was almost even though it wasn't the final, it was almost like the climax of the event, because not only when there's the winner know they've qualified to the World Cup, but also just the way that game ended up playing out as compared to the final subsequently. Of course, you didn't know how the final was going to go, but Jade, you're down, I think it was a 3. You were down 3-0 in that game. You guys end up roaring back in the second half. You take the lead, and then they tie, I think, with 2 seconds left or something like that. Just take me through that game before you even get to PKs, because you had extra time and then you had PKs. But just that 40 minutes of emotional roller coaster, like, talk about containing those emotions. How did you kind of navigate that very back and forth kind of game?
Yeah, I think in the first half we were very confident in our skills, and they came out very early with a couple, like, not easy goals, but like goals that could have been prevented. And I think going to the halftime when they scored that third goal, it's definitely a dagger, because it was a crazy goal, like off a volley too. But going into the locker room, we were talking about it. Everyone was very sad at the start. We had our heads down, and then our assistant coach Kit came in and he gave a very motivating speech, I'd say, to really amp us up to get going. And just going into the second half, just knowing like, hey, we can do this. People score futsal goals in like 0.5 of a second, so it's definitely possible. And I think scoring that first goal just off an interception helped get the team's momentum going. And just
Yes, we want to be clear. Jade scored that first goal. It wasn't clear from how she just phrased that. She's trying to be humble here, but you sparked the comeback essentially with the first goal. It has to start somewhere, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then I think our momentum just kept building and building. And then we had a lot of Canadian fans that were cheering for us, as well as Guatemalan fans that became Canadian fans.
Nice.
So that was very nice to see. And just knowing when you got on the bench, just taking a deep breath, feel like just play how we normally play, everything will work out. Just really trusting the process. And then just playing our man down when they pulled out the flying keeper, just trusting that my teammates on would take care of the job. And they did. They did the best they could, but that was also a crazy shot that they hit.
Wild, yeah.
I was like,
If you don't look, well, you go to the CONCACAF YouTube channel and check out the highlights, because it is one of the more dramatic things you will see. And just the way the goal was scored, I think 1.8 seconds, I think, was how much time was left.
Mm-hmm. And then just going into extra time, just knowing, just playing our game as well, but just knowing we'll just take it to penalties, because we had faith in Jaden, because she is crazy when it comes to penalty saves, and just knowing that our team can execute on those.
Okay, yeah, you teed me up perfectly, because this is the part that I find that, of all the twists and turns of this game, this is the one that boggles my mind the most, because I mean I've seen Jaden in PKs on a soccer pitch, obviously most infamously in a playoff game against the Calgary Dinos a few years back. But obviously, Futsal's they're closer. That's a different dimensions. But she didn't start the game. To be clear, you had your other keeper, who's a captain, I believe, right? Was your starting keeper throughout the tournament. So what is it? Is it just that you knew Jaden that's her specialty? Yeah. So she goes in cold essentially, and she stops 2 PKs. So what is it that she's able to do or to harness that gives you the confidence that you can say, as a coaching staff, we're in a game that is our chance to make it to the World Cup, we're going to do a keeper swap when it comes down to the do or die PKs of the game?
Yeah, it's an interesting, I felt we had the 2 best goalkeepers. Obviously, Leah being nominated the goalkeeper of the tournament was amazing and great captain and leader. But I think Jaden was amazing in her own self as well. As a coaching staff, we were confident in both. And Jaden's role happened to be our PK specialist. So even in the game against Honduras, we got into a lot of foul travels early in the second half, and she had to come in during the game for 2 extended penalty kicks, and she saved one was a post, and she saved the next one, and that was as a coaching staff, that was her role. We had already decided that anytime there was a penalty in the run of game, or if we got to penalties, Jaden had proven that she was amazing at that. Even club nationals, they got to penalties against Quebec, and she made some saves and they won. So Jaden is Jaden like that. She doesn't put too much weight on penalties. I think that's what makes her special, is she just goes and does her thing. She doesn't overthink it. I wouldn't say she doesn't even over prepare, and I think that suits her personality and who she is. So all we wanted to do again was get to penalties. So again, going back to, I'm trying to remember, so typically one of my roles on the team was to lead some of the pre-game warm-ups, and then also be the set piece specialist. And so I remember we had a really, really good warm-up, and Coach Kit and Coach Alex, they typically don't lead the warm-up. They're just in the dressing room, either last-minute preparations. And we walked down, and Coach Kit asked me, how was warm-up? I said, really good. The girls are ready. They're focused. And we start the game, and in my mind, we came out really flat. Maybe the occasion, maybe the moment, we were a little bit timid, nervous. We weren't playing bad, because we had a lot of chances against Mexico. We weren't scoring them. And then they scored 2 out of 3 goals were amazing goals. Stuff that you're okay, we hadn't seen up to that point. 2 volleys, top corners, really good interplay, or one was a foul. We kind of turn away to talk to the referee, and they play quick. They were just that good at the small little details. Yeah. And so we're down 3-0, which in futsal is not a big lead. It's not drastic, but we also hadn't been down by more than 1 goal, 2 goals. So it was okay, how are we going to respond? And as a coaching staff, we kind of decided that it wasn't about the X's and O's. It was just more about not overthinking the moment and just going and playing. So Coach Kett led it, again, to Jay's point, very simple, I think, and direct. Is like, forget about the game plan, forget about what we're like over focusing on that. Just go and play, execute, have fun, enjoy this moment. No one even had given us a chance to be at this stage. So just go, and we have 20 minutes to make a difference. And at that point, Jade hadn't been playing. Just, again, the game, how we had set it up, we decided as a coaching staff to go with a different type of lineup. And typically, Jade plays as a defender at the back because of her distribution and her ability to pick out passes and whatnot. But I had a feeling that we needed something more on the left side, more of a left-footed player as opposed to coming inside to give us that little bit of a spark. And so we decided as a coaching staff to move Jade as a winger and play her higher up. And it proved to be an amazing decision. and
results, yeah.
Credit to, again, Alex for trusting the coaching staff. I think your Nick, another assistant coach, was the one that kind of did all the subs and the substitutions, and me and him were kind of chatting. And again, this is why I say it was such a special moment, because the coaching staff also trusted each other a lot. And so we kind of suggested it, we went with it, and then like you said, Jade intercepted the pass, scored, and that kind of just started to get the momentum. And so from being down 3-0, I think we scored 4 goals in 4 minutes?
Yeah, it was 4 or 5 minutes, yeah.
Which is so amazing and classic of futsal. You get the momentum, and it was 3-1, 3-2, 3-3. Mexico called a timeout, 4-3, which Jade also assisted on the 4th goal. And then we were winning all of a sudden, but there's still 16 minutes to play, a lot of time. So we managed to kind of weather the storm, and Mexico now came at us. And 1.8 seconds, right? And then they scored an amazing volley. And again, I was the set piece coach, so I was devastated. I was oh my God, of course they're going to score on a set piece. But honestly, looking back at it, I don't think there was much we could have done. It was just an amazing play.
Yeah, it really was.
You have to kind of accept it. And so 4-4, but here's the thing that sometimes people don't realize. We were on 5 fouls. And fouls carry over into overtime.
Okay.
So they reset from first half to second half. But when you go into overtime, they don't reset from second half. And we had 5 fouls. And we had to play 10 minutes. 5 minutes per half.
Without committing a foul.
And that's what I was more worried. Because Mexico is very tricky. They're good. They were attacking. They had the momentum. And if they scored 1, then I felt that would have been the game changer. So a lot of our role was just to refocus the girls to say, hey, we were losing 3-0. Actually going into overtime is a victory for us because we were down already 3-0. Yeah. So let's not look at it as we're defeated. And so it was, but we only had 30 seconds to 1 minute. So the entire coaching staff was just reframing the mindset of our players to say, hey, we made it to overtime. That is a victory. Yes. We were down 3-0 at half. And I think, and just remembering that, making sure that they remember that we're on 5 fouls to just be disciplined, play composed, and get it to PKs. And my mind, if we got it to PKs, we were going to win. I had no doubt whatsoever. And I even told Coach Alex as we were lined up, I said, Jaden's going to make 2 saves. We just gotta make sure we score 3 or 4, but she's going to make 2 saves. And it's so surreal how everything lined up. And Jade ended up making 2 saves. Jade scores. And the funny part is she saved the PK on the girl that scored with 1.8 seconds.
Yeah. That's
so
right.
Everything kind of came full circle.
It's the balance of the universe. So Jade, as Jerson mentioned, you were one of those PK takers. You scored yours. What? It's not the first PK in your career, futsal or soccer, obviously. But what's your mindset when you're on the spot like that? How do you kind of calm yourself, or do you have a specific plan going in? Do you change it once you see the keeper lined up? How do you go to the spot?
Well,
Without
in my mind,
giving away your secrets, I don't want to.
Had to think about it. In my mind, I was like, oh my God, this is the biggest PK in my life that I'm about to take right now. But I hadn't known we had practiced it leading up to the preparation. and just knowing, like, I never look at the keeper personally. If they're doing whatever, I've never looked at them. And I'm very specific when I put down the ball. If it's, like, moving around, I'm like, no. I will reset it to put it exactly how I want it and just trust myself, like, I've done, like, repetition on this over and over again. And just, I remember, like, walking away from the ball and just thinking about, like, all the preparation I've done to lead up to this moment, think about my family and my friends, like, that supported me along the way, and, like, my teammates, and just, like, trusted in my abilities that I could get it done, and luckily I did.
That was a good one, too. Top corner. It's funny because, you talk about, all those things that are going through your mind, and yet you still have to be kind of settled. You have to know where you're going. You have to sort of have that focus at the same time. And then, one PK later, you won. Because I think you were the fourth, right? And then there was one more, and that seals the victory. And then at that point, you're going to the World Cup. Did that make the final at all anticlimactic, or was it like, because it looked like, it was 8-2. Over Panama. How much did just getting through and knowing that you were going to the World Cup, how much did that power you? I guess I'll start with you, Jade. How much did that power you in that final? Because it looked like, when you watch the highlights, like, this is a team that is coming off just an absolute huge confidence-building win and now knows, like, this is ours to take. Is that how you felt going to that final?
Well, going to the final, our coach, Coach Alex has always said, like, every game, he said, this is the biggest game ever.
Of course.
But he said, this one could actually be just based on the seeding, and then once we get into the draw for the World Cup. Yeah. So just knowing that we've already made so much history with this team, that our job was just one more step to just make sure that we had controlled everything that we wanted to going into that World Cup. So just knowing that we had done the preparation, everything was ready to go, and just playing and enjoying the moment, really, that not every team can say they've played in a CONCACAF futsal final, especially it being the first. So just going out, I felt like we had a lot of fun and just scoring a lot of goals, celebrating, and just trusting each other.
And I mentioned Erica Highmarsh again scoring in that game, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And so 8-2 the final, and then it's celebration. How surreal was that, or did that already kind of pass by through what you had gone through leading up to that? What was the belief that is like, this is real? Like, you're standing there, you got the big old trophy, the confetti's coming down. Like, what was that moment like, Jade?
It felt surreal. It definitely, like, leading up, and credit to Panama, they're great sportsmen. They had made, like, a tunnel for us while we had, like, received of players to get our medals, and then just standing at the sign, and then our captain bringing over the trophy and all the confetti going felt very surreal. I felt like I was in a movie, kind of like at the end when there's a big soccer celebration. So just, it felt surreal, and it still feels surreal just having my parents had come down to watch, and just having so many fans there, and just knowing people back home were super excited and super happy for us as well.
I love that what you mentioned about Panama, because you're in some ways you both in a big way you both accomplished something by being in that game, right? They're going to go to the World Cup as well, so that's nice to hear that they were almost like, once the game's over, obviously I'm sure they want to win just as badly as you did, but they recognize the moment as well and help you kind of enjoy it, and they're enjoying their own moment because they've officially punched their tickets too, right? So
it's sorry.
No, go ahead.
I don't think anyone had expected a Canada-Panama final for the first ever CONCACAF championships. We were both underdogs. We both finished second in our group. So Mexico finished first in their group, and Costa Rica finished first in our group, and neither of them were in the final. We actually got to the stadium early. We watched the Panama-Costa Rica, I think the last 10 minutes, Jade, of that game. And Panama were big underdogs against Costa Rica, but they deserved to win that game. They won 3-1, but they were, like, physically, like, dead. You could see it. They didn't really have a lot of depth in their team. I think they had maybe 6 or 7 core players that didn't really rotate through. They were amazing players, but I think that was our biggest advantage as a
Right.
team. We had a lot of depth, and we weren't afraid to utilize our entire team. So, from a coach's perspective, going into that final game, as Jade said, it was a big game because this, if you win your confederation, you get a better ranking, you get a better seeding for the World Cup. But also allows you to be the top team in CONCACAF. So now teams are going to want to play us. They're going to want to schedule friendlies,
Sure.
and hopefully CONCACAF, even for future opportunities, we're the team that they look at as the standard, as we are the best for the next 4 years, no matter what. So the U.S. game, the Mexico game, up to that point, were always the biggest game. But then the final against Panama was our biggest game in terms of those pieces. But I think as a coaching staff, we're really confident in our team, like line 1 to line 3. And it really was less about tactics. It was more about enjoy the moment. We're not going to teach you anything different than what we've done. Just go and play. And obviously we studied Panama, and we knew that if we got ahead of them, we didn't feel that they were going to have the energy to
Right.
come back. Like, it was just about, can we score the first or second goal, and then kind of like be on cruise control from there. And we did it. Jade's land was Jade, Erica, and Joelle and Kira, and they started off really well. We scored the first goal with Erica, and I think that just settled our team. And then I think we're up 4-0 at half.
Yeah.
Which we knew that wasn't a big lead because we had just experienced it the day before. So it was more about keeping the girls focused and continuing to play till the end, but enjoying the moment. And then, yeah, like Jade said, once that final buzzer went, because we were up 8-2, it didn't feel like amazing in terms of when the buzzer went, like our Mexico or US game, but like once we were able to kind of like see what we just accomplished, like it's the biggest game, it's the biggest title we've ever won. I've personally won as a head coach, but then to have Jade, Erica, Jaden there alongside, and our families' support, and so many Guatemalan local fans and neutral fans that just became Canada fans was amazing.
Oh,
like
wow.
it was like you can't describe that feeling. And like Jade said, it's why we do what we do. It's those are the dreams that we always, going to bed at night, you always hope that you experience, but for it to actually come to fruition, yeah, it's like it's a blur, to be honest.
Jade, there's a lot of firsts here, right? Like, this is the first national women's futsal team. You're a part of it. You go to the first CONCACAF championship. You are now part of the first CONCACAF championship team. You get to go now to the first women's futsal World Cup. All these firsts, to be a part of all of those, and maybe even in the context of being, coming out of Saskatchewan, to be part of those firsts. What significance does that have for you?
For me, it means a lot just to show that Saskatchewan athletes, I feel like sometimes, like I've mentioned before, like are overlooked compared to the bigger provinces. But then Jerson has done a lot of building with futsal in the province, and just seeing that we do have the talent and the depth and the strength of different players here to compete, not just at the national level, but at the international level, and just to represent my family and everyone back home, and just the girls that I coach at Junior Huskies, and I coach in a bunch of youth local clubs as well, just is super amazing to me.
To have this opportunity, and I'm sure you obviously you knew this was on the horizon over the last couple of years as you're trying to potentially work your way towards it. But meantime, you're kind of playing out your couple final years of eligibility as a Husky. To have an opportunity to continue to compete at such a high level in futsal, albeit, but what is that like also? Because it's like for a lot of the vast majority of university athletes, no matter the sport, when you finish your eligibility, in a lot of cases, outside of maybe playing in an adult league or something like that, the opportunities really, there's very few and far between to continue to compete at such a high level. So what is that like to know that now there's this whole other avenue for you? Because obviously you still have plenty of years of athletic prime in front of you, to be able to have something like this now to kind of be motivated to be involved in and continue to chase more success there.
Yeah, I just think it shows that university soccer, college soccer is a good part of your soccer journey, but it's not the end. It's a good building block, and that female athletes, especially, a lot of them I find like stop playing soccer right after they've completed their eligibility, but it's still on the table for female athletes to keep playing, to keep growing, and to reach these different professional and international opportunities. So just believe in yourself, trusting your abilities, and just know that these opportunities, sometimes when you're not even looking for them, will find you as well.
It's an exciting time for women's soccer, women's futsal, right? Because obviously we have the Northern Super League just underway, first season here. That's creating all these new opportunities for Canadian players to play domestically on a professional level. Obviously, you have plenty of women's leagues around the world as well, but exciting time, especially here in Canada for that. Jade, you just mentioned a moment ago about Jerson's work sort of helping to build up Saskatchewan futsal. And I know it's been a long, I want to say about a decade or at least for you kind of building this up. And this team was predominantly Quebec and Saskatchewan players, right? If I'm not mistaken, right?
Yep.
So I was kind of thinking about this in a parallel to lacrosse, in that there's kind of two kind of pockets of real hotbeds in the country of talent, being Southern Ontario and sort of the lower mainland of BC. Now, that sport has been, has a longer trajectory, has a longer history, so it's started to expand now. We've seen Alberta really build up. We've seen other parts of the country start to develop their lacrosse talent. But it feels like sort of the starting point for women's futsal, at least in Canada, is Quebec and Saskatchewan now, really where the cores of where that talent is coming from. So what's it been like to sort of work to sort of grow that and to now see the rewards of that work in the form of this championship?
Yeah, it means everything, Ryan, to be honest. And I want to make sure that this is clear. It's not just myself, neither. It's a lot of people from my coaching staff at the university, Abu, Amy, that have been with me for 9 years, that have done a lot of the work behind the scenes, and then the good folks at Saskatoon Futsal League. So Jaime, Mesa, and Tiago Prada also believing in the vision of building futsal in Saskatchewan. But as the head coach of our program 10 years ago, when I first initiated, we used futsal at that time as an opportunity to develop our players in the off season. It really aligned with the style of play and the DNA of what I want our soccer program to be, our Husky soccer program, in terms of being very dynamic, players that are very creative, that are comfortable on the ball, very technical, and that are very good in transition moments. And that futsal provides all those moments. So for us, it was a perfect setup. And also the realities, and this is sometimes what people don't know, is we don't have a lot of access to soccer centers, or we have access at 6 a.m. in the morning, or the cost is very prohibitive for us as a small program to be able to utilize. So futsal, when we can train at the PAC in our own facilities, kind of aligned with that. And so my dream was always that this would be something that would happen, but at the time, it was not even close. So all we used it for the first 5-6 years was as a development tool in the winter, to continue to make our players better. And the girls loved it because it was something unique, different. None of them had ever known what futsal was or played futsal. I think Erica Heinmarch was the first generation of our program have implementing it. That then close to 2017, I met Jaime and Tiago, and we Jaime had already started the Saskatoon Futsal League, but it wasn't really much of a thing.
Right.
And so we initiated with youth, because for us, we felt that if we can invest in youth, it's going to slowly start to build a pathway. Because there was nothing in terms of competitions for women or national teams or international, nothing. So we started with youth as a league, and we had the first men's team, Olympia SK. So we were the first province out of Ontario and Quebec that actually put a men's team together to go for national competitions for futsal, men's national competitions. And to
make sure everyone knows, you played on it.
I was still relatively fit.
You can still play.
And I played in 2017, and we also made history there because we were the first province. We eliminated Ontario. I mean, we made the final our first time against Quebec. We ended up losing in the final, but I think that was a catalyst for other provinces to see, hey, you know what? This team from Saskatchewan, first time, beat Ontario. Let's continue to develop futsal. So from that point on, moving forward, there was only 3 teams at nationals that year, and it was in Queens, in Ontario. It expanded to 8 teams. And I think we proved that you can be successful as a small province. And so that was just on the men's. And so nothing really had happened on the female side. And then COVID hit. So then the league kind of paused for 2 years. And after COVID in 2022, we kind of reinitiated the league. And this is, I think, what's so special. For us to have success in Saskatchewan, you need to think outside the box. We can't do what the big provinces do in terms of formats or leagues because we don't have the capacity in terms of teams or players.
Right.
So what we did is we initiated a women's league, but we also combined it with U15 boys. So we were really flexible in our approach because we needed teams, we needed different challenges. And having people that think beyond the logistics and the administrative of, you can't do this, but actually think for the betterment of the sport was amazing. So again, with the league, we now gave our players and our alumni who are Impact a platform for them to compete, not just train, but actually compete in a local league. 2020, and we did that for 2022, and then in 2023, Canada Soccer finally initiated national futsal championships for women's. So now that started to give us a platform to now be able to compete in futsal, because futsal is a sport in itself. The tactics and what you do needs to be treated as a sport in itself. It's not indoor soccer.
Yeah.
But if you use futsal, you 100% become a better soccer player. But it doesn't go inverse.
No.
You cannot be a good soccer player and become a great futsal player. So a lot of the top level players in the world actually initiate with futsal and then become amazing soccer players. So having a platform to actually have a competition with futsal gave us as coaches an opportunity to actually now coach the sport and actually teach the rotations and the tactics and have an opportunity to actually develop a winning mindset within our team. And as a university coach, that aligned with where our program was working towards, where we were headed, because we've been building, and we have a hashtag, we say we're on the rise. And the final step for us is to learn how to win these moments and to embrace these moments and actually be champions. And so futsal was an outlet for us to continue to have that competition. Because in the winter, we don't have competition. Yeah. We don't have proximity. We only have the U of R, and that's it. So people don't understand that futsal for our program has been a medium to actually provide more competition, to teach our players how to win. But in itself, it's kind of developed into a sport in itself and an opportunity in itself. And that was always my dream, but we didn't know if this was actually going to become a reality. And so then we have competitions and we put a team in. And in 2023, the first time, we actually didn't put a team in because I was away in Mexico coaching with Tigres.
Tigres, yeah.
So the alumni were the ones that were able to go to nationals, and they actually won bronze. And Matthew Hinachu was the head coach. So what's been really exciting is not just myself. It's what we're building organically within our teams. We now have a green and white team, which is current university players. We have an SK Impact, which is alumni. And we have great people like Abu, like Matthew, like Jaime, like Tiago that are coaching the sport and itself and learning and growing. And we're competing with each other, but to make each other better. And I think that's what's really special about this province is that when you have the right people that are doing intentional work behind the scenes, it provides these opportunities for these kids. And as a coach, it's an amazing feeling because it's always been my dream. And like Jade said, you just never know when those opportunities are going to come. So stay fit, stay in the game, keep playing. Like I think Erica told me the best. She said it the best. She's like, never in her wildest dream at 31 years old should have thought that she would be able to represent her country. And I think that just shows that, like, when your university career at 22, 23 years old, you're just starting. You haven't even peaked as a player. So if you can continue to stay in the game, stay fit, and continue to, like, give back to the game, now there's a realistic pathway. And I think big picture, that's what I'm the most proud of as a head coach. Yes, I'm really proud of what we were able to accomplish, but seeing Jade and Erica be role models for the up-and-coming junior Huskies, young players in this province, to actually see that, hey, you know what? Maybe soccer is a great platform, but now maybe there's futsal an opportunity for me to be good, for me to make a national team, for me to play internationally. And I think for us as a province, we can be a superpower. That can be our superpower. We can be a powerhouse when it comes to futsal, because of our landscape, because of our small communities and the weather, and maybe not as much access to facilities or competition. Then that's what I really hope this has inspired is for the smaller communities, the Humboldts, the North Ballarfords, the Prince Alberts, the Yorktons, to say, hey, you know what? Futsal can be our medium to provide players an opportunity to showcase themselves, to play maybe university, maybe play internationally, and then from international level, for sure, professional level. There's professional leagues in Spain and Brazil and Portugal as futsal. You don't have to just be a soccer player. Now, you can use futsal to become a very soccer player too. So for me, it's a win-win scenario for what our province can produce, and this is why I'm so passionate about futsal along with soccer, because we need to think outside the box. We need to embrace our uniqueness as a province, and we have the right people doing intentional work behind the scenes. I feel sometimes it's just a matter of opportunity, and I think that's what these girls had. They earned that opportunity. They didn't just get that because I was part of the assistant coach staff. No, they had to earn it through their performances, but they've done that at nationals 2 or 3 times. We've won. So I think the only way to stay at the top is by continuing to win and embracing that like winning mindset, which a lot of times we don't have in this province.
No.
We always go to nationals, we finish 6th, 7th, and we celebrate that because I say we make excuses. Oh, well, we don't have these amount of players. And I said, no, we got to change the narrative. We got to change our mindset. Is we need to strive to be number one no matter what. And yeah, it might take us longer. It might take us more effort, but it's not impossible. And this is proof. So I think that's what's so amazing.
I see some parallels too. Like we talk about how many great football players. Of course, I'm talking American football here to be clear, but come out of Saskatchewan. And I think part of that is you can attribute it to the fact that in the smaller communities they play smaller versions, right? 6-man, 9-man. They adapt the sport to suit the community, the smaller. If you don't have enough players to field a soccer team, but you might have enough players for a futsal team. So those opportunities there. So we're getting short on time, but I do want to ask both of you before we go just about preparation now. So November 21st is when the World Cup kicks off in the Philippines. So it's about 6 months from now, a little give or take, a week or two. What does the preparation look like? Because of course you're working and there's you're playing club and those sorts of things. So maybe Jade, I'll start with you. What does the next 6 months or so look like as you kind of prepare and ramp up for your first World Cup experience?
That still feels surreal to say.
I know, that's why I said it that way.
But I think just staying fit and just playing like in the local leagues, like we're playing outdoor soccer right now, and then getting and practicing futsal when I can, just on my own as well, and just waiting until kind of seeing what Coach Alex and the rest of the coaching staff have planned for us, if we were going to do any camps leading up to going, but just making sure that I can control what I can, as in staying fit and ready to go.
And I guess I should make sure we're clear on this. Is it the same group that's going to go, or will there be another selection process, or how does that play out?
Yeah, I mean, the possibility is there. The rosters aren't locked, so as a coaching staff, we could select the best 14 players. Again, the realities of our country is there's not a lot of futsal being played in the summer. A lot of these players are amateurs, like they have full-time jobs. They play maybe semi-pro leagues, outdoor 11v11. So it'll be interesting to see what we're able to do and how we continue to select players. I think, again, these 14 players have given themselves the best opportunity to be selected based on what they achieved. But they need to stay fit. They need to stay ready. They need to stay injury-free. And unfortunately for us, our reality is they also need to have their jobs and their work.
For a month
be able to let them go, which I'm really hopeful that that's not a barrier for selection. So yeah, I think time will tell. In terms of preparation, right now I think it's still up in the air. I mean, most of us as a coaching staff, we're university head coaches, so we will be busy coaching our university youth sports fall season, but we're hopeful that maybe in October, I was speaking with Alex, it's not confirmed, but maybe over Thanksgiving when we don't play and maybe the other conferences have kind of typically Thanksgiving is a weekend off, we could have a 4 or 5 day camp just of preparation with maybe this group and a few alternates too, depending. And then we're hopeful that we're able to maybe, depending, again, this is on funding from Canada Soccer as well, hopefully have some friendlies maybe in Europe or Asia prior to the World Cup so that we can continue to prepare and continue to develop and probably most likely as what we did, maybe go early to Philippines and get acclimatized to the weather and play a few friendlies. I think we'll know a lot more once the draw is out. I don't have a date. I don't know of a date of when the draw is, but I think that will start to make a lot more of these details come alive, and it'll also become a lot more exciting once we know who we're up against, who we're playing, and what our preparation is going to look like based on the style because we might be playing against South American teams. We know for a fact there will be a European team in our group because there's only 4 groups of 4 and 4 European teams made it. And typically you're not in the same group as your same confederation. Right. So I think because of that, that's the reasoning of maybe going to Europe to play other teams. And there's so many good teams that didn't make the World Cup. Let's not forget, there's only 16 teams that made this. So I think over the next month or so, we'll have a better idea. But I think as of right now, like Jade said, it's players staying fit, control what they can control, stay fit, continue to get touches. And from our end, we hope even over the summer, continue to have futsal. Like maybe it's outdoors. Now, education, the tennis courts outside the education, they've been reconverted, half of them, and there's a futsal court there. So what we'll do and what we can control is continue to provide futsal opportunities, be it friendlies, exhibition games. I know even like in the urban games, futsal was part of the sport, like youth, where there's talks of maybe having a showcase tournament for adults this year so that we can provide these girls with opportunity to actually compete over the summer so that it's not like a 4-month hiatus of the sport because then you get rusty. So yeah, a lot to be confirmed and determined, but the exciting part is we know we're preparing for something in November.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's super exciting. I know we'll be keeping our, and I'll make sure once we know, when that draw is, we'll share that with you, of course, so we can kind of start getting people hyped up for November and December. Just congratulations again. What an accomplishment, and a lot still to come. So maybe we'll have to have you back here when you're World Cup champion. Yeah. Hey. You got to set that bar nice and high now as you go in with that seeding that you'll get because of being the CONCACAF champion. Now, Jerson, Jade, thanks so much for being here and joining me here on our maiden voyage here on Good Sports. Can't wait to see what you accomplish next.
Thank you. It was a lot of fun and super excited to be in the studio, actually.
Yeah, we're pretty happy. I'm pretty excited. So I was really glad that you guys you're able to come in and join me here today. And we'll be talking down the road, I'm sure.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks for the invitation, and it's amazing what you guys are doing and continue to showcase maybe the underground opportunities and the amazing people in Saskatoon that are doing some amazing things across all sports. So thanks again, guys, and we really appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, stick around. We've got a little bit more to wrap up here, but once again, thanks to Jerson and Jade for joining us. A little more Good Sports still to come. Well, thanks again to Jerson and Jade for coming in. I think ideal guests for our very first show. That's really what this show is all about. Please like, subscribe, and watch each week to see more great stories like theirs and hear about all those details. Because again, some of this stuff you just can't fit into a short and tidy little story on the news. You gotta sit down and have a real good conversation about it. So I was really grateful for them to come in and chat about their experience. Before we go, wanted to wrap up the show. We're going to do this sort of to wind up each show. It is our Good Sport or Good Sports of the week, and we do have 2 people that we want to recognize this week as they are both connected to Huskies athletics, and they are both nominated for Women of Distinction Awards this year here in Saskatoon. Longtime women's basketball assistant coach Ali Fairbrother, recently just part of the team that won its 3rd national championship, and the chief athletics officer for Husky Athletics, Shannon Chin, are the two nominees for the Leadership in Athletics Award. So I'm not completely familiar with the format. If they have to like battle each other out for I'm sure they don't, but pretty cool to see a couple of women involved in Husky athletics up for those Women of Distinction Awards. That dinner is, I believe, on Saturday. I don't have the date in front of me. It's this weekend, though, that they will have those awards, that gala awards. So congratulations to Ali Fairbrother and Shannon Chin. Being nominated for something like that is a pretty cool thing. And it's a reflection of the work that they've done in their respective their roles with Huskies athletics. So Ali Fairbrother and Shannon Chin are good sports of the week. And that pretty much wraps up episode 1. We're playing with this as we go. So I hope you'll join us each week. Every Thursday, we're going to have new episodes out. And the plan is to, again, shine a light on all the great things that are happening here in local sports, far beyond sort of the headlines. We'll get to the headlines too, though. We want to try to cover everything as best we can. I want to thank everyone here at Dufferin Ave Media for being just as excited, I think, as I am about doing this, launching this show. Having that support is fantastic. I've been wanting to do something like this for a while, trying to find the right dance partner, and I think we're in step here. So really excited to see what we can do with this as we continue on. And please, I welcome any feedback. So in the comments, let us know what you think, things you might want to see on the show. And you see what we've got here around the set. We've got a bunch of little local sports shout-outs, always looking to add to the collection. So if you've got some great local sports memorabilia that you're willing to part with, at least on a long-term temporary basis, if you want it back, we'll get it back to you eventually. Want to keep adding to the set here, really give as many teams and sports some love on our set as well. So if you got anything you want to donate, give me a shout out, let me know, and I'll grab that from you as well. So once again, thanks for watching, and please join us next week, and we'll have another great story featured. You'll have to just keep your eyes peeled on social media to find out who that might be. I'm Ryan Flaherty. Thanks so much for watching. Be a good sport.